18 years after her father vanished without a trace, Emily Parker was simply a waitress, living a quiet life in a small-town diner. She never expected that her father, once a flamboyant, self-made millionaire, would contact her across the span of nearly 2 decades. But that's exactly what happened when a mysterious letter arrived, dated the very day he disappeared. Inside it contained cryptic instructions, half-hidden clues, and a single promise that everything she thought she knew was about to change. Suddenly, Emily found herself plunged into a world of high-stakes betrayal and hidden truths, desperate to uncover what truly happened 18 years ago. Emily Parker balanced a tray of coffee mugs in one hand as she maneuvered through the bustling crowd at Dolan's diner. The smell of sizzling bacon and fresh toast filled the air. She flashed a weary smile at one of the regulars, old man Roscoe, who sat at the counter telling the same stories he'd been telling for years. At 27, Emily had few illusions about life being grand or full of surprises. As far as she was concerned, life was about paying bills, staying humble, and maybe dreaming about something bigger from time to time. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, and her white apron bore the inevitable stains of a breakfast shift in full swing. She handed over the mugs of coffee, scribbled an order, then stepped back to notice a familiar figure entering the diner, Noah Green. He was a local mail carrier with a friendly smile known to everyone in town. Noah held a cream-colored envelope in his hands, scanning the diner until his eyes settled on Emily. "Hey, Em," Noah called out. "Got something interesting for you today. Certified mail." Emily adjusted the tray on her hip, slightly confused. "Certified mail? For me, it's got to be a mistake. I don't get important letters." Noah gave her a playful wink. "Well, unless there's another Emily Parker who works at Dolan's, this is definitely for you." He handed her the envelope. It looked old, its edges yellowing and corners bent. The address was printed in a sophisticated typeface, and the postmark bore a date that took her breath away, August 23rd, 2007. Emily blinked, rereading the date. It had to be some kind of joke, right? 18 years had passed since that stamp was placed on the envelope. She nearly dropped the letter. It was from her father, John Parker, the day he vanished. She felt a lump form in her throat. She hadn't heard from him or seen him since the day he'd driven off in his black Mercedes, leaving a puzzled 8-year-old Emily and her devastated mother behind. The letter shook in her trembling hands. Noah leaned closer, clearly concerned by the look on her face. "Everything okay?" Yes," Emily stammered, swallowing hard. "It's just an old letter from someone I haven't heard from in a long time." She backed away and sank into the nearest empty booth, ignoring the calls of hungry customers demanding more coffee. Her heart hammered in her chest. 18 years of silence, broken by a letter that should have arrived when she was still a child. She glanced around the diner, momentarily disoriented. Her manager, Dolores, noticed her abrupt exit from the floor. A sharp but well-meaning woman in her 50s, Dolores approached with a concerned expression. "Em, sweetie, you all right? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I'm fine," Emily murmured, not sounding at all convincing. I need a moment. Is that okay?" Dolores eyed the envelope, took note of Emily's shaky hands, and nodded with rare sympathy. "Sure. Take 5 minutes out back if you need. I can handle the crowd." "Thank you," Emily whispered, feeling her head spin. She clutched the letter to her chest and made her way out the back door, stepping into the fresh mid-morning air. The sun glared off the metal dumpster nearby, momentarily blinding her. She stared at the envelope, running her fingertip along the postmark again. August 23rd, 2007. That was the exact day her father, John Parker, had vanished. One moment he was a talkative millionaire businessman, known in local circles for his philanthropic endeavors and lavish spending. The next he was gone. Rumors swirled for years. Some said he faked his own death to avoid debts. Others claimed he was involved in shady real estate deals, or that a rival had him killed. But there was never any conclusive evidence. He simply vanished, leaving Emily and her mother with almost nothing. Why would a letter from him show up now? She whispered to the empty alleyway. With shaky fingers, she broke the seal. Inside was a single sheet of paper with a typed message and her father's bold signature at the bottom. She recognized it immediately. She'd seen it on old documents and notes he used to leave in the kitchen when she was a child. The letter read, "My dearest Emily, if you're reading this, it means something has gone terribly wrong. There are things I can't explain right now, but trust that everything I did was for a reason. I need you to keep this letter close and follow the instructions exactly. Go to 230 Park Avenue in Manhattan. Ask for Mr. David Boys at his law office. He will guide you. I love you more than anything. Whatever you hear about me, remember that. Your father, John Parker." It was short, cryptic, and downright alarming. Emily pressed the paper to her chest. 18 years too late, and yet somehow still urgent. 230 Park Avenue. She recognized the address of the Helmsley Building, an iconic piece of New York architecture. She had no idea who David Boys was, aside from knowing he was a high-profile attorney, known for major litigation cases over the years. Why would her father send her to him? Questions swirled in her mind. Her father had been quite the mogul, or at least that was what she'd been told. Emily had been too young to fully grasp the scale of his wealth. Then everything went up in smoke. Now, after so long, she had a lead. As bizarre as it sounded, it was a direct request from her father written the day he disappeared. Emily reread the letter a dozen times, each word echoing with memories and heartbreak. Finally, she realized Dolores would be fuming if she didn't get back to her table soon. She slipped the letter into her apron pocket, her heart pounding in her ears. The path before her had suddenly shifted. For the first time in 18 years, she had a clue, a spark of hope, a chance to learn the truth. When Emily's father vanished, her life shattered. At 8 years old, she was used to bedtime stories, weekend trips to the zoo, and big Sunday breakfasts. She was Daddy's little girl, and he was her hero, albeit an absent-minded one, who spent many late nights in his office or traveling for business. But he always found time to tuck her in or leave a chocolate under her pillow if he missed a good-night story. Then one day, he was gone. Emily's mother, Tricia Parker, fell apart almost immediately. Bills piled up, and without John's resources, they had to move from their lavish colonial-style home in Tarrytown, New York, to a cramped apartment in a less affluent neighborhood. Tricia found work as a secretary at a local insurance firm, but her heartbreak manifested in sleepless nights and tear-stained pillows. She rarely spoke about John's disappearance, except to emphasize one crucial point. Never forget the man your father was before he left us. Over the years, Emily grew skeptical. If her father loved them so dearly, why had he left them at the mercy of gossip, financial hardship, and heartbreak? Could a father so devoted simply vanish? Perhaps Emily reasoned he'd been forced to disappear. Or maybe he'd abandoned them by choice. The uncertainty gnawed at her soul. As a teen, Emily nurtured anger and bitterness. She tried looking for him on her own, combing through old newspaper articles, searching her mother's boxes for clues, anything that might tell her where he'd gone. Nothing. In time, she learned to bury the pain. She focused on graduating high school and helping her mother pay the bills. But now this letter changed everything. 18 years late, but it contained the single most direct reference to her father's disappearance she had ever seen. He'd clearly planned to vanish. The instructions were specific. It wasn't a random meltdown or a kidnapping. He wanted her to find David Boys at 230 Park Avenue. Why? After her shift at Dolan's ended, Emily spent the bus ride home in a haze. The seat next to her was empty, but she felt as if a ghost from her past was riding shotgun with her whispering secrets in her ear. She opened the letter again, reading the typed words. They radiated a sense of urgency that no number of years could dull. Upon reaching her small one-bedroom apartment, she found her mother at the kitchen table, flipping through a stack of unpaid bills. Tricia was in her mid-50s now, her once vibrant red hair streaked with grey, the lines on her face carved by worry. She glanced up, forcing a smile. "Hey, sweetie. How was work?" Emily's throat felt tight. "Mom, I got a letter today." She pulled the envelope from her bag. "From Dad." Tricia stiffened her hands, shaking so violently that a bill slipped from her fingers to the tabletop. What do you mean?" "From Dad." Emily sat down, sliding the letter across to her. It was delivered this morning, but it was postmarked August 23rd, 2007. It looks like it got lost or something. But it arrived now. And it's addressed to me. Tricia picked it up, eyes widening as she read the note. Emily watched her mother's expression shift through shock, confusion, and heartbreak. Finally, Tricia whispered, "How is this possible? He mentions a lawyer, David Boys, at 230 Park Avenue." Emily swallowed hard. "He wants me to go see him. He says Mr. Boys will guide me." Tricia closed her eyes as if in pain. "I remember your father mentioning David Boys once. Some big-shot attorney who defended powerful people. But that was so long ago, Emily. What could he possibly still have for you?" Emily pressed her lips together. "I don't know, but I need to find out. This is the first real lead we've had on Dad's disappearance." Tricia's eyes filled with tears. "All these years, I tried to protect you from false hope. I don't want to see you hurt again if this turns out to be nothing." "I understand," Emily said gently. "But I have to try." Tricia nodded, though her face remained etched with concern. "Then you go. Be careful. But you have to do this. Just be prepared for disappointment, honey. Your father, he was involved in dangerous deals, I think. He never wanted to talk about them, but I'm sure of it." Emily felt a pang of unease. "I'll be careful." With that, she rose from the table and headed to her room, uncertain what tomorrow might bring. She wanted to catch a bus into Manhattan as soon as possible. She'd never met David Boys before, and she had no idea how to get past the front desk of a top-tier law firm. But she had to try. She owed it to herself and to the father she still loved, despite everything. The following morning, Emily boarded a Greyhound bound for Manhattan. She was armed with nothing but a handbag, a copy of the letter and an address scrawled on a slip of paper. Hours later, she emerged at Port Authority, disoriented by the bustling city that seemed worlds away from her small-town life. She navigated the crowded sidewalks, neon advertisements, and the relentless cacophony of car horns, feeling a mixture of excitement and dread. Eventually, she found herself standing in front of 230 Park Avenue, the Helmsley building. She craned her neck to take in its grandeur. The architecture exuded old-world elegance, a silent testament to New York's Gilded Age. People in tailored suits and polished shoes streamed in and out of the building's revolving doors, carrying leather briefcases and exuding an air of purposeful confidence. Inside marble floors shone under bright chandeliers, and a uniformed security guard stood watch at the reception desk. Emily approached with an uneasy smile, feeling painfully out of place in her modest outfit of jeans and a blouse. "Excuse me," she said softly. "I'm here to see David Boys. Could you direct me to his office?" The guard arched an eyebrow, sizing her up. "Name, please, Emily Parker. I believe he's expecting me." Doubt flickered across his face. "Wait here." He picked up a phone and dialed an extension. Emily's heart pounded as she waited, glancing at the expensive artwork that lined the walls. Finally, the guard hung up the receiver. "Mr. Boys is in a meeting, but his associate will see you. 20th floor, room 2006. Emily muttered a thank you and headed for the elevators, each breath tighter than the last. When the doors opened on the 20th floor, she found herself in a plush waiting area. Large windows showcased a panoramic view of Manhattan's skyline. She approached a sleek receptionist's desk, behind which a young woman with dark-framed glasses typed busily. "Hello, I have an appointment," Emily said, trying to sound confident. "Emily Parker to see Mr. Boys or his associate." The receptionist scanned a schedule. "Right, Miss Parker. Please go ahead to conference room B." She pointed down a hallway. Emily nodded and followed the corridor to a set of glass doors. Inside, a tall man in a sharp grey suit stood behind a conference table tapping on a laptop. He looked up at her entrance with a polite smile. "You must be Emily Parker," he said. "I'm James Merritt, Mr. Boys's associate. Please have a seat." Emily sat her palms damp against her thighs. "Thank you for seeing me. I'm not entirely sure why I'm here, except that my father left instructions to meet Mr. Boys." James nodded sympathetically. "David regrets he couldn't meet you personally. He's engaged in back-to-back court proceedings for another client. But he was aware of your father's intentions. Before Mr. Parker disappeared, he arranged certain documents and instructions with our firm to be delivered to you, if you ever showed up with that letter." A chill ran down Emily's spine. "So my father was preparing to disappear." James frowned. "We don't have all the details, but yes, it seems he anticipated a sudden departure. He set up a trust, among other things. However, none of it could be executed without you physically presenting the letter." "May I see it?" Emily hesitated, then handed it over. She realized that somewhere in the depths of her hope she was still searching for proof that John Parker had cared. James examined the letter carefully before opening a large file folder. Inside were papers and a sealed envelope with Emily's name on it. "According to our records," James began, "your father placed significant assets into a trust with you named as the beneficiary. He provided instructions that if anything happened to him, death or permanent absence, these assets should be managed by our firm until you came forward with the letter. The assets are primarily a mixture of stocks, real estate holdings, and some intangible valuables. However, there are conditions." Emily's breath hitched. "Conditions?" "Yes. You're required to follow a series of steps, presumably to locate additional documents or property he left behind. It's somewhat unorthodox, but your father insisted it was the only way for you to truly understand the reasons for his disappearance." Emily leaned forward, the city's noise fading to a distant hum. "Please, Mr. Merritt, just tell me. What do I have to do?" James pushed the sealed envelope toward her. "This envelope contains further instructions from your father. It also holds keys to a property in Westchester County. And from what I can see, references to a storage unit in Midtown. We can only give you general guidance. The rest is up to you to uncover." For a moment, Emily was speechless. The father who vanished now had her embarking on a treasure hunt of sorts, leading her from one clue to another. Did my father leave any hint about what happened to him? James removed his glasses, rubbing his temples. Unfortunately, no. He left a few cryptic notes about danger closing in and a betrayal that couldn't be undone. The more official explanation he gave us was that he feared for his life. But beyond that, there's nothing conclusive. Emily's mind swirled with the ghosts of theories she'd entertained for years. Had someone threatened him? Had he staged his disappearance to protect them? Or was it all just a cunning ploy? James closed the folder. "As per your father's instructions, you're free to begin the process immediately. Our firm will assist with any legalities. Mr. Boys also insisted we remind you, trust no one. People you consider friends may have played a part in my downfall." Those were your father's exact words. A shiver ran through Emily. "I thank you," she managed. "I guess my next step is to read what's in that envelope. Then I'll figure out how to proceed." James escorted her out of the conference room. The entire experience felt surreal. 1 minute she was a small-town waitress content to get by. The next she was clutching instructions from her long-lost father, stepping into a realm of wealth and possible danger. As she left 230 Park Avenue envelope pressed protectively against her chest, Emily felt a strange sense of purpose flicker to life. For better or worse, she was about to unearth the secrets of John Parker's disappearance and maybe discover the father she'd lost so many years ago. Back in her small apartment that night, Emily sat cross-legged on her bed, the sealed envelope resting on a pillow. She hesitated, heart pounding. Once she opened it, there would be no turning back. Every line on the envelope's surface seemed to whisper, "Are you ready for what comes next?" At last she broke the seal. Inside was a typed letter and 2 keys taped to a separate slip of paper. The letter read, "My darling Emily, I'm sorry for leaving you. By now you've likely been told of my disappearance under terrible circumstances. Know that I had no choice but to go. There are powerful people who wanted me gone, people who benefited from what I discovered. But that story is best told step by step. Enclosed, you will find a key to a property I purchased many years ago in Westchester County, located at 15 Maple Glen Road. It's a small estate I kept secret. You'll also find a key to a storage locker in Midtown Manhattan, locker number 7 and 8 at Grand Central Storage, 44th Street. Each location contains items that will reveal the truth. But please be cautious. If anyone discovers your connection to these places, you could be in danger. Trust no one, especially those who claim they can help. I love you, Emily. I've done all this so you can have the life you deserve. Love forever, Dad." Tears blurred Emily's vision. She bit her lip, rereading lines that explained so little yet promised so much. He believed he was in danger, and he believed that danger could extend to her. She felt an urgent need to call her mother, but she remembered her father's words. Trust no one. Did that apply to her mother too? The thought seemed absurd, but paranoia began to creep in. The key to Westchester. The key to the storage locker. She needed to figure out which to explore first. The storage locker was likely easier. Grand Central was closer, and investigating it might reveal quick answers. But the estate sounded like a bigger piece of the puzzle. She couldn't do it all in one night. Instead, she resolved to go to the storage locker first thing the next morning. Sleep came fitfully. She dreamt of her father in a dark corridor, calling her name, only to vanish when she reached out for him. The next morning, she woke to the sound of early traffic and an uneasy pit in her stomach. She prepared hurriedly, tucking the keys and letters into her purse, then made her way to the Grand Central storage facility. Located on a busy Manhattan street, the storage building was a tall, nondescript structure. She approached the front desk, where a bored attendant flipped through a magazine. Emily presented the key and said, "Locker 7 and 8, please." The attendant glanced at her, took the key, and ran it through the system. "All set. This key's valid. Do you have the passcode?" "Usually, it's a 4-digit number." Passcode. Emily's mind scrambled. She opened the slip of paper again, noticing faintly in the corner a series of numbers, 2307. She prayed that was it. Try 2307. The attendant typed it in. "Yes, that's correct." He handed her the key back. "Locker 778 is on the 7th floor, second corridor. Elevators down that hallway." Emily thanked him and followed the directions. Her footsteps echoed in the long hallway. Rows of metal doors lined both sides, each containing other people's hidden treasures or burdens. She paused at number 778, heart thudding. Even in the fluorescent lighting, she could see how old the lock appeared. 18 years left untouched. She inserted the key, turned it, and pulled up the rolling door. The interior was surprisingly well kept, no dust cloud greeting her. A single large trunk rested in the middle. It looked old, possibly antique dark wood with brass corners. Emily crouched beside it, noticing a padlock securing it shut. She tried the second key from her father's letter, but it didn't fit. She frowned, searching for a lock combination or additional instructions. Then she spotted a scrap of paper, taped to the trunk's underside, 2307. With shaking hands, she spun the numbers into the padlock, which clicked open. She lifted the trunk lid, mouth dry. Inside, carefully packed, were files, photographs, and a laptop in an old protective case. Emily reached for the photographs first. They depicted her father at various high society events, shaking hands with politicians and business tycoons. One photo showed him standing next to a younger man with a cunning grin. Someone Emily felt she recognized but couldn't place. She sifted through the files, scanning words like royalton, development embezzlement, and fraud allegations. There were receipts, bank statements, evidence of huge sums of money being funneled between offshore accounts. Emily's blood ran cold. Had her father uncovered a massive financial scandal? Then she noticed a name repeated throughout the documents. Donovan Black. It was listed on suspicious wire transfers and property titles. The same cunning-faced man from the photograph. Emily felt a jolt of recognition. The name Donovan Black had appeared in a few newspaper articles when she was younger. He was rumored to be a ruthless entrepreneur with ties to organized crime, someone you did not cross. It looked like her father had compiled evidence linking Donovan Black to widespread fraud. Possibly, John Parker discovered something that made him a target. Emily's hand shook as she sifted deeper, pulling out a thick envelope containing legal documents. The top page read, "Affidavit of John Parker." She skimmed the affidavit's contents. "I, John Parker, swear, under penalty of perjury, that I have discovered intentional fraud orchestrated by Donovan Black and his associates, using shell corporations to launder money and defraud investors. My attempts to bring these facts to authorities have been met with threats to my life and the lives of my family." Emily swallowed hard. Her father was a whistleblower. This was the reason he disappeared. He had tried to expose Donovan Black, and presumably Donovan retaliated. No wonder John left behind cryptic letters and hidden instructions. He was protecting Emily from the crossfire. At the bottom of the trunk, she found a small black journal. Opening it, she recognized her father's handwriting, Emily. "If you've found this, you're on the path to the truth. The next step lies in Westchester. I kept everything hidden there. These documents you hold prove Donovan's guilt. But there's more. Be careful, for Donovan has people everywhere. I pray you never have to face him." A wave of emotion crashed over Emily. Her father hadn't abandoned her. He'd been saving her. Tears blurred her vision as she carefully closed the trunk. She realized this evidence could be extremely dangerous in the wrong hands. The question was, what should she do next? Turn it over to the authorities, or first see what else her father had hidden at the Westchester property? She dreaded the possibility that Donovan Black might discover she was holding the key to his downfall. Emily lowered the rolling door, locked it, and pocketed the trunk's contents in her bag, at least the most crucial documents and the old laptop. She left the rest inside, carefully resecuring the padlock. She stepped back onto the street, feeling as though a target was painted on her back. Images of Donovan Black's cold eyes filled her mind. A man who could orchestrate complex fraud worth millions was certainly capable of eliminating one young waitress who stumbled onto his secrets. All the same, she had to continue. Her father had risked everything to hide this. The next step was Westchester. Her new life of secrets and revelations had begun, and there was no going back. That evening, Emily tried to steady her nerves by calling her mother, hoping to glean any more details about her father's business dealings. But Tricia had little to add beyond what Emily already knew, that John Parker had been dealing with some questionable people. Emily hung up, vaguely reassured that at least her mother wasn't part of this conspiracy. Yet the old man's warning, David Boyce's cautionary words echoed, "Trust no one." She didn't sleep well. She kept imagining footsteps outside her door, the glint of a sniper rifle in a nearby window. Paranoia, maybe, but her father's warning was so specific and the evidence so damning that she couldn't shake the sense of being watched. The next morning, she rented a modest sedan for a day trip to Westchester County. The address her father provided, 15 Maple Glen Road, led her to an unmarked gravel driveway hidden behind a stand of tall oak trees. She turned in heart, fluttering with anticipation. At the end of the drive stood a small estate, a brick-faced cottage surrounded by overgrown shrubbery. It wasn't the grand mansion she expected, yet it had a certain quiet charm. The key from her father's letter slid easily into the old brass lock. The door opened with a creak, revealing dust motes dancing in the stale air. Emily flipped a light switch by habit, surprised to find the electricity still worked. The interior was furnished modestly, a worn sofa, a coffee table, some shelves stacked with books. It looked untouched for years. She explored each room carefully, half expecting to find a hidden safe or more documents. In the study, she discovered a heavy wooden desk with locked drawers. She tried the second key, the same one that fit the storage locker padlock, but it didn't work here. Undeterred, she found a paper clip and fiddled with the lock until it clicked open. Inside were more papers, older than the ones in the trunk. She uncovered deeds to various properties, some in Manhattan, others scattered across the country. There were bank statements referencing significant sums of money, still in overseas accounts under her father's name. A sense of awe washed over her. She'd known John Parker had been wealthy, but not to this extent. Then came the real surprise: her father's last will and testament, dated the same day as his disappearance. She skimmed the will, leaving all my assets, liquid or otherwise, to my daughter Emily Parker, upon the conditions specified in the accompanying letter. Emily's throat grew tight. So he truly had set everything aside for her. The next page was a hand-scrawled note. Emily, by now you know about Donovan Black. My death warrant was signed the day I refused to aid him in his next scheme. There is more to find more that will explain the betrayal that led to my flight. I have one final hideaway. You must see a cabin in the Adirondacks near Lake Placid. The deed and key are also in this desk. Proceed there only when you feel safe. Donovan has men searching for me everywhere. I pray you come to no harm. Dad. Emily sank into the old desk chair, numb. A second property. The deeper she ventured, the more complicated this became. How many layers of secrecy had her father created? She flipped through the documents relating to the Adirondack cabin, ignoring the swirl of dust. Meanwhile, the hush of the cottage pressed around her, as if it contained years of silent waiting. Suddenly she heard a thud outside. She froze, heart racing. Through the grimy window she glimpsed a black sedan idling near the entrance. Her mind flashed to Donovan Black. Had he tracked her here? She quickly gathered the crucial documents into a file, stuffing them in her backpack. Tiptoeing through the house, she peered out the front window. A single man stood by the car, dressed in a dark suit, scanning the property, as if searching for something or someone. Emily felt her pulse hammer. She was out in the middle of nowhere, vulnerable. The man pulled a phone from his pocket, speaking into it tersely. Emily didn't dare move. If he saw her, would he storm the cottage? Sweat trickled down her temple. She considered calling 911, but what would she say? That a suspicious man was outside on a private property. She just happened to inherit from her vanished father. After a tense few minutes, the man climbed back into his car and drove away. Emily watched until the taillights vanished down the gravel road. She let out a shaky breath, uncertain if it was truly safe. Could be a local real estate agent or a random tourist who got lost. But Emily's instincts screamed otherwise. Someone was looking for something here. Realizing she might not have much time, she scoured the cottage faster, snagging anything that looked valuable or potentially incriminating. She found an old photo album featuring younger versions of her parents with a baby, Emily swaddled in a pink blanket. She clutched it to her chest, tears pooling in her eyes. Even in the thick of this chaos, these were moments of love and warmth she would treasure. Before leaving, she checked the perimeter, noticing fresh tire tracks in the gravel, proof that the black sedan was no coincidence. Her father's warning rang in her ears as she locked up the cottage. Trust no one. She slid into her rented sedan, started the engine, and drove away. Her heart didn't settle until she returned to her apartment in the city. She pressed her back to the locked door, exhaling. She might be in over her head. Yet she had to see this through. Her father's memory deserved justice. And if Donovan Black truly orchestrated financial crimes and possibly her father's disappearance, he had to be stopped. But could she, a lone waitress, bring down a powerful mogul with criminal ties? Over the next few days, Emily carefully reviewed the documents she'd retrieved. The laptop from the storage trunk was password protected. She tried common possibilities, her birthday, her mother's name, even 2307, but none worked. It seemed locked tight. Undoubtedly, it held more evidence. She considered contacting a tech-savvy friend who worked at the diner, Michael, who tinkered with computers in his spare time. But was that safe? She decided to trust Michael, albeit cautiously. After her evening shift, she invited him over, explaining she'd found an old laptop that once belonged to her father. She didn't divulge the full story, only that she needed help recovering cherished memories. Michael was more than happy to help. He was a lanky guy with a quick wit, wearing a Star Labs t-shirt referencing a popular superhero show. "So let me get this straight," he said, booting up the laptop. "This is super old. Windows XP or something. Maybe older. You want me to hack your dad's old password?" "Right," Emily said, forcing a casual laugh. He passed away and left me some pictures. I want to see them again." Michael nodded sympathetically. "Got it. Let's see what we can do." He spent the next hour installing a password reset tool from his USB drive. Emily paced nervously, half expecting men in black suits to burst through the door at any moment. At last, Michael announced success. "All right, I've bypassed the password. You're in. But be careful, some files might be corrupted." She forced a grateful smile. "Thanks, Mike. You're a lifesaver." He gave a theatrical bow. "Anytime. Let me know if you need more help." With that, he left. Once alone, Emily dug into the laptop's files. Immediately, she found a hidden folder named DB Truth. Inside were spreadsheets detailing financial transactions, many referencing Donovan Black and his shell companies. There were also scanned documents, letters to law enforcement, and voice memos from John Parker, recorded in his own voice. Hands shaking. Emily clicked on a file labeled Memo 01. Bave. Her father's familiar baritone filled the quiet apartment. "If you're listening to this, I'm either dead or in hiding, Emily. I'm so sorry. I never wanted this for you. I discovered Donovan's laundering schemes and confronted him. He offered to cut me in an obscene sum enough to set us all up for life. But I refused to help him steal from innocent people. That's when the threats began." John's voice trembled slightly in the recording, sending a wave of heartbreak through Emily. Another file. Memo 02. I met with an attorney, David Boys, who advised me to collect solid evidence and go to the authorities. But Donovan's reach is extensive. He has the police in his pocket. I fear a direct approach would be suicide. My next move is to vanish, protect my family, and gather more evidence from the shadows. Another wave of guilt and sorrow consumed her. He had done it all for them. She moved on to a final recording, Memo 03. WAF, which was time-stamped the day he disappeared. Emily. I might not see you grow up, but this is how I keep you safe. The day you find this, you'll be old enough to understand. I hope you find the courage I know you possess. Reveal Donovan's crimes, bring him down if you can. If all goes well, these documents will be your shield and your sword. I love you, sweetheart. Always. Tears streamed down Emily's cheeks. She paused the recording, covering her mouth with her hand. It was as if he'd spoken directly to her, bridging nearly 2 decades in an instant. She now held the key to bringing Donovan Black to justice if she dared to use it. But where to begin? She could try to contact David Boys again, show him what she found. Yet the risk of leaks or infiltration was high. She could go directly to the FBI, but her father's warning about Donovan's influence rattled her. She needed proof Donovan was still powerful, still pulling strings. A sudden resolve hardened in her chest. She would continue following her father's trail, going to the Adirondack cabin next. Maybe there she'd find something more definitive, something that would guarantee the authorities took her seriously, or at least a final piece of the puzzle. First, though, she'd have to watch her back. If Donovan Black or his associates sensed her presence, she could become the next target. The following afternoon, Emily packed a small bag and stepped out of her apartment to head for the bus station. The Adirondacks were a lengthy trip north, but she preferred public transportation to avoid leaving a traceable credit card record for car rentals. She turned the corner onto a side street, only to see a black SUV parked across the road. She froze, remembering the black sedan in Westchester. Although not exactly the same, it was close enough to send alarm bells ringing in her head. She ducked behind a dumpster, waiting to see if anyone emerged or if the vehicle moved. Seconds stretched into minutes. Then the driver's side door opened, and a tall figure stepped onto the sidewalk, scanning the area. Emily's heart slammed in her chest as she recognized the man from outside the Westchester cottage. Same angular face, same dark suit. He was staring in her direction, brow furrowed as if sensing her presence. She crouched lower, clinging to the side of the dumpster. Her pulse thundered in her ears. How had he found her? Had he followed her home? Footsteps clicked against the pavement. Emily risked a peek. The man was walking toward her apartment building, a phone pressed to his ear. This time she caught fragments of his conversation. No sign of her. She must have left. A pause. Yes, Mr. Black. We'll keep searching. A chill coursed through her veins. Donovan Black had indeed sent someone to hunt her down. She had to move now, or risk being cornered in an alley. Careful not to make a sound, she slipped away, sprinting down a parallel street toward a taxi stand. She flagged down a cab, jumped in, and gave the driver directions to a different bus terminal in the city, hoping to throw off any tail. Her heart didn't calm until she was on the bus, watching Manhattan's skyline fade in the distance. She plugged in headphones, but all she could hear was her father's warning echoing in her mind. Donovan Black was actively searching for her. She had to be vigilant every step of the way. Night had fallen by the time the bus reached the Lake Placid area. Emily stepped off the air, noticeably crisper. Stars blanketed the sky, a far cry from the light-polluted metropolis. She used the directions from her father's desk papers to catch a local taxi to a remote part of the Adirondack forest. The driver seemed amused by her request. "You sure about this, miss?" he asked, his accent thick with local charm. "Not a whole lot out there, but trees and critters." Emily mustered a polite smile. "Yes, thank you. I have a cabin up there." After a winding drive along dark, narrow roads, the taxi arrived at a rustic wooden cabin nestled amid towering pines. Emily paid the fare and watched the car's taillights disappear down the lonely road. She braced herself, hearing only the rustle of leaves in the night breeze. The cabin's front porch creaked as she ascended. A sense of déjà vu washed over her, recalling her father's note. She found a hidden key under a loose plank in the porch floor, just as the documents had indicated. Inside, she flicked on the lights. Dust covered every surface, and a stale odor lingered, but it felt sturdy and safe, untouched by the outside world. She locked the door behind her. A quick inspection revealed a small living area, a compact kitchen, a bedroom, and a bathroom. Shelves lined the living room walls, filled with tattered paperbacks and a few old photographs. Emily recognized her mother's face, in some of them younger and glowing. Her father stood beside her holding a baby Emily. A pang of longing hit her chest. She spent the next hour exploring every nook, trying not to flinch at the occasional scuttling of critters in the rafters. Finally, she found what she was searching for: a locked metal box in the bedroom closet. The label read, "Parker Family Confidential." Another padlock. She tried 2307 again. Click it opened. Inside were multiple journals and a set of old videotapes labeled Evidence DB. There was also a slip of paper with an address scrawled on it: Riverside Warehouse, Albany. Another clue. Emily's eyes flicked to the videotapes. If these contained footage of Donovan Black's activities, that could be the silver bullet to bury him for good. She had to find a way to watch them, though the cabin had no TV or VCR. A sense of urgency prickled at her. She was so close to everything her father had hidden, and she was certain Donovan's men wouldn't be far behind if they somehow traced her here. Sleep felt out of the question, but exhaustion eventually forced her to lie down on a dusty couch, cradling the metal box. She drifted off, haunted by dreams of her father and the shadowy form of Donovan Black creeping ever closer. Morning light filtered through the windows, revealing a breathtaking view of pine trees and a serene lake in the distance. Emily made herself some instant coffee from the cabin's sparse provisions. She needed a plan. She had journals, video evidence, and a lead on some warehouse in Albany. But Donovan's goons might appear at any moment. She flipped through one of the journals, scanning the final entries. August 22nd, 2007. Heard from my source in Donovan's circle that he's finalizing plans to expand the laundering network. He wants me to sign off. Not happening. August 23rd, 2007. I made the decision. I'm disappearing today. Everything is set for Emily to find later if I don't return. She deserves to know the truth. Donovan must be stopped. Emily clenched her fists. Her father had sacrificed everything. She had to honor that. She tried to formulate a way to expose Donovan that wouldn't get her killed. Maybe she could involve a major news outlet, the New York Times, or the Wall Street Journal. If she leaked the evidence publicly, Donovan would struggle to bury the story. But that required a secure channel. Her phone buzzed in her pocket. Only a handful of people had her number, so the sudden call startled her. She glanced at the screen. Mom. Anxiety tensed her stomach. "Hey, Mom," she answered softly. "Emily." "Oh, thank God." Trisha's voice trembled. "I've been trying to reach you. Some strange men came by the apartment asking about you. Are you okay? Where are you?" Emily closed her eyes, dread filling her. "I'm safe, Mum. But I can't come home right now. Those men work for Donovan Black. Dad was in trouble with them." Trisha gasped. "He's the one who made your father vanish." "More or less," Emily confirmed. "I found evidence Dad compiled. I need to finish what he started." Trisha's voice broke. "Emily, please don't do anything rash. Let the police handle this." Emily swallowed. "Mom, we can't trust the local police if Donovan has them on his payroll. I'll figure something out. I promise. Just please be careful, and don't tell anyone anything about me." Before her mother could protest further, Emily hung up. She didn't want to drag Trisha deeper into this nightmare. Emily quickly packed her father's journals and videotapes into her backpack. She had to leave the cabin. Staying there only risked leading Donovan's men to more evidence if they caught up. She stepped onto the porch, scanning the woods. A sudden movement among the trees made her heart skip. She ducked behind the porch railing, watching as two men in suits emerged from a narrow trail scanning the property. One carried a handgun at his hip. Emily's breath caught in her throat. They were here. She quickly retreated inside, shutting the door as quietly as possible. She checked the back of the cabin. No immediate exit except a small window that opened onto a steep slope covered in undergrowth. She could try to crawl through, but the men might see her. She had to think fast. A loud knock hammered on the front door. "Open up!" a deep voice demanded. Emily froze. The door had no sturdy bolts beyond the flimsy lock. If they wanted to get in, they would. She dashed to the window, shoved it open, and squeezed through her backpack, scraping against the frame. Twigs scratched her arms as she tumbled down the slope, half running, half sliding. Behind her, she heard the door burst open and footsteps inside the cabin. One of the men shouted, "She's here! Hurry!" Adrenaline surged. Emily bolted through the underbrush. Tears in her eyes, lungs burning. She had to reach the main road, but it was miles away. She pressed onward, branches snagging her hair. Gunshots rang out, snapping tree branches overhead. She ducked instinctively, panic roaring in her mind. Donovan's men weren't just here to talk. They intended to kill her or drag her away. She forced her legs to keep moving, despite the lactic acid burn. The forest floor blurred beneath her. She had to survive. She had to finish what her father started. At last, she reached a gravel road, nearly stumbling onto it. She looked both ways, breath ragged, seeing no immediate sign of traffic or pursuit. Then she heard shouting behind her. The men were closing in. She had a split-second decision: run back into the woods and hide, or follow the road and hope for a passing car. Fortune favored her. A battered pickup truck came rumbling around the bend. She waved frantically. The driver, an older woman in a flannel shirt, hit the brakes, eyes wide. "What's going on?" she yelled out the window. "Please help me." "Some men are chasing me." Emily gasped. They have guns." Alarmed, the woman threw open the passenger door. "Get in." Emily scrambled inside, slamming the door. The driver stomped on the gas gravel, spitting behind them as the pickup sped away. Through the rear window, Emily glimpsed the two men stumbling out of the woods, weapons glinting in the sunlight, but they were too far away to catch the truck. "What in the hell's going on?" the driver asked, eyes darting to the rearview mirror. Emily shook her head, chest heaving. "I can't explain everything. Just thank you. You saved my life." The driver pressed her lips together. "We'll get you somewhere safe, hon. Don't worry." Emily's mind reeled with everything that had happened. She clutched her backpack, relieved that the crucial evidence was still with her. The men chasing her confirmed the seriousness of her father's warnings. Donovan Black wanted her silenced, and he was not afraid to use violence. She would not let him win. She would expose him no matter the cost. After that close call, Emily decided to head for Albany. The city noted on the slip of paper found in her father's cabin box. She took a sequence of buses and hitched short rides with sympathetic travelers along the way, trying to stay off the radar. Through it all, she remained jumpy. Certain Donovan's men were around every corner. Upon reaching Albany, she found a cheap motel on the outskirts of town, paying with cash to avoid a paper trail. Then she called the number for an old friend of her father's, someone she remembered from childhood dinners, James O'Reilly. He'd been an accountant who handled her father's finances at one point. Emily discovered his name in the laptop's contact list. Maybe he could verify some of the evidence. She dialed the number with trembling fingers. After a few rings, a gruff voice answered. "O'Reilly here." "Mr. O'Reilly," Emily said quietly. "This is Emily Parker, John Parker's daughter." A stunned silence followed. Then the voice softened. "Emily." Good Lord, I thought. I haven't heard from your father in years. Are you all right? Not really, she admitted. I found documents linking Donovan Black to some serious crimes, and I'm being chased by his men. I need help, or at least advice. O'Reilly sighed heavily. I suspected John uncovered something big. It's why I left that circle. Donovan's a dangerous man. Where are you, Albany? Emily said cautiously. I have a lead on a warehouse. My father left it in his notes. O'Reilly grunted. Ah, yes, the Riverside warehouse. Your father mentioned it before disappearing. Said it held the final piece. I'm not sure what it is, but it must be significant. If you want my help, I'm in Rochester. That's a bit out of the way. Emily deflated. I don't know if I can make it to Rochester safely. Don't O'Reilly warned? Stay in Albany for now, but if you're serious about bringing Donovan down, you need a major platform. I can call an investigative journalist I know, Alison Gregson. She's with the Washington Post. Trustworthy, dedicated to exposing corruption. If you get her the evidence, she'll blow this story wide open. Emily breathed a small sigh of relief. That might be my best shot. Let me reach out to Alison, O'Reilly said. I'll give her your number if that's okay. Yes, please. Thank you. They ended the call. Emily collapsed onto the motel bed, exhausted. She clung to the hope that Alison Gregson could help her. In the meantime, she couldn't resist the pull of the Riverside warehouse address. It might contain the final piece her father mentioned, the nails to seal Donovan Black's coffin. The next morning, Emily woke early, dressed in inconspicuous jeans and a hoodie, then caught a cab to the waterfront district. The driver eyed the decrepit warehouses and potholed streets with apprehension. Emily paid him quickly, stepping out near the address 171 Riverside Lane. It was a massive rusted warehouse, its windows broken or boarded. The front entrance was chained shut. Emily circled the perimeter, eventually finding a side door with a shattered lock. She slipped inside. The air smelled of mildew and dust. Shafts of morning light pierced the gloom from high windows. She picked her way over debris, scanning for anything that stood out. Then near the far wall, she found a tarp-covered object about the size of a large filing cabinet. She yanked off the tarp, revealing a sturdy metal case. A crude label on top read, Parker. Emily's heart pounded as she unlatched it. Inside, she found reels of film, more stacks of documents, and to her surprise, a small safe. She tried the 2307 combination again, no luck. She fished around the metal case until she found a slip of paper with a 6-digit number. Entering it, the safe popped open. Within lay a thick manila folder marked Confidential. Emily's eyes widened at the first page. A financial analysis prepared by a forensic accountant detailing money trails that led directly to Donovan Black's personal accounts. The level of detail was mind-boggling. Dates, amounts, shell companies, laundering routes. A single line jumped out at her, confirmed bribery payments to local enforcement agencies, politicians and judges, ensuring ongoing protection of criminal enterprises. This was it. The smoking gun. If the documents were authentic, it tied Donovan's entire operation to bribery, corruption, and organized crime. Enough to put him away for life, and likely take down any complicit officials. Emily carefully returned the pages to the folder, adrenaline coursing through her. She texted O'Reilly. Found final docs. Need to meet your journalist contact ASAP. He responded almost immediately. Alison wants to talk to you. She'll call your phone soon. Emily paced the dusty warehouse, checking the time. Donovan's men could track her at any moment. At last her phone rang. "Hello," she answered. Emily Parker, a clear, firm voice, asked. "This is Alison Gregson, The Washington Post. James O'Reilly filled me in. I hear you have some explosive material on Donovan Black." Emily inhaled sharply. "Yes, it's huge. Bank statements, bribes, audio recordings, even film reels. Donovan's men are after me. I'm not safe." Alison's voice softened. "We've dealt with worse. We need to meet. I can get you on record, verify the documents, and prepare a story that hits national outlets. Where are you?" "An abandoned warehouse in Albany." "But I can't stay here. I have contacts in Albany," Alison said decisively. "Let's meet in a public place safer for both of us. There's a coffee shop called Daily Brew near the Capitol building. Meet me there in 2 hours." Emily agreed, then hurried out of the warehouse, the precious manila folder tucked in her backpack. She had to secure transportation to the coffee shop without drawing attention. She scolded herself for not checking the area before stepping outside. As she emerged into the daylight, she froze. Parked across the street was the same black SUV from before. A man inside peered in her direction, phone pressed to his ear. Panic shot through her. She ducked behind a stack of pallets, mind racing. The advantage was hers. Momentarily, he might not have seen her yet. She had to slip away before he radioed reinforcements. She scanned the street, spotting a public bus stopping a block away. Summoning her courage, she bolted across the road. The man in the SUV shouted, fumbling to start the engine. Emily darted between cars, nearly getting clipped by a speeding sedan. Horns blared. Miraculously, she made it to the bus as the doors were closing. She leaped inside, breathless, and collapsed into a seat at the back. The driver pulled away, and she glimpsed the black SUV caught at a red light, unable to follow. Relief flooded her, but fear lingered. She clutched her backpack. She had the final piece. If she stayed alive long enough, Donovan's empire was finished. The 2 hours before meeting Alison passed in a jittery haze. Emily changed buses twice to evade any tail. She finally arrived at the Daily Brew, a quaint cafe with polished wooden tables and large windows overlooking a busy street. She found a corner table and waited, eyes scanning every new patron with suspicion. Eventually, a poised woman in her early 40s entered, wearing a navy blazer and carrying a notebook. She spotted Emily and approached Emily Parker. Emily nodded. Alison. They shook hands, and Alison sat across from her, offering a reassuring smile. "Don't worry. I'm used to dealing with high-risk whistleblowers. This'll be fine." Emily exhaled shakily. She handed over the manila folder. Alison's eyes widened as she flipped through the contents, her expression shifting from curiosity to shock to determination. "This is incredible," she whispered. "No wonder Donovan wants you silenced. With this and your father's recorded memos, we can present an airtight case. Once this goes public, no bribed official will want to risk covering it up." A lump formed in Emily's throat. "So this will be enough?" "Enough to open multiple federal investigations," Alison confirmed, tapping her phone. "And I have contacts in the FBI who've been itching for a lead on Donovan. They just never had enough proof." Tears brimmed in Emily's eyes, relief washing over her. She'd upheld her father's legacy. She'd found a champion to expose Donovan's crimes. In that moment, she felt a surge of pride and heartbreak. that her father wasn't there to see it. Alison placed a comforting hand on Emily's. "We'll protect your anonymity for as long as we can. I'll do an immediate write-up, gather more corroborating evidence, and release it in a comprehensive piece. Donovan won't know what hit him." Emily smiled, hope blossoming in her chest. "Thank you. I can't tell you how much this means." Alison stood, carefully locking the folder in a slim briefcase. "Stay cautious. For your safety, it might be wise to leave town. I can recommend secure lodging and put you in touch with witness protection if needed." Emily nodded. "I'll think about it. But I have something else I need to do first. My mother's in danger if Donovan's men find her. I need to get her somewhere safe." Alison agreed, promising to send details by secure text. With that, she paid for their coffees and left. Emily watched her go, a swirl of emotions within. She'd done it. She'd made the first crucial move to bring Donovan down. Her father's voice resounded in her memory. "I love you, sweetheart. Always." That evening, Emily quietly returned to her hometown to retrieve her mother. In the days that followed, Alison's explosive story broke on the front pages. Headlines screamed about Donovan Black's massive fraud and criminal network. Authorities launched swift raids. Donovan's known associates were rounded up. Suddenly, the bogeyman that loomed over Emily's life was cornered by the very justice her father had fought to secure. Emily watched the news coverage from a safe location, her mother by her side. She was overwhelmed by gratitude, grief, and relief. Soon reports emerged of Donovan Black's desperate attempt to flee the country. He was captured at an airport, the FBI slapping handcuffs on him. Pictures of his arrest looped endlessly on TV. As days turned into weeks, Emily finalized her father's estate with the help of David Boyes's firm. The trust that John Parker had set up for her, left untouched for 18 years, was rightfully hers. She was no longer a small-town waitress scraping by, but wealth felt secondary to the deeper gift her father had given her, the truth. Still, a question lingered. Where was John Parker? Was he truly dead or out there somewhere? The justice system had finally cornered Donovan, so if her father was alive, would he return? Emily kept that glimmer of hope. Weeks later, she stood outside Dolan's diner, the place where she had spent so many years. She was leaving town to start a new life, perhaps in a city that sparked fewer ghosts. Dolores, the manager, embraced her tightly. Michael, who had helped with the laptop, shyly asked for an update. Emily only said, "My father's story is finally out in the open," offering a smile of quiet triumph. Emily Parker's life changed forever the day she received an 18-year-old letter from her father. A millionaire who vanished without a trace. By following cryptic clues, she unearthed damning evidence against Donovan Black, an untouchable mogul who controlled an empire of fraud and intimidation. Despite the deadly risks, Emily exposed the truth, honoring her father's legacy and bringing justice to a world of corruption. But this story isn't just about solving a mystery. It's about family courage and the enduring power of love. If this journey inspired you, please show your support. Like this video, share it with friends who love gripping drama, and subscribe to our channel for more real-life-style drama stories that highlight the resilience of the human spirit. Together, let's keep these tales alive, ensuring the light of truth shines even in the darkest places. Thank you for watching, and stay safe.